Hi, I'm Maggie Ward, and I did my country report on South Sudan. So, starting off with the background of South Sudan, it is a landlocked country in northeastern Africa, bordered by countries like Sudan, Ethiopia, and Kenya. It has a tropical climate with hot temperatures and seasonal rainfall, but that's mainly in the southern region. The Nile River runs throughout the country and provides a fresh water source. Climate change has caused frequent flooding from the Nile, and as time goes on, these floods are getting worse, destroying villages and displacing millions of people, but South Sudan does not have the proper resources to recover from them. In the 1820s, Sudan was invaded by the Ottoman Empire. The South of Sudan resisted this invasion, and the empire was never able to really control the southern region. In the 1890s, Britain invaded Sudan and took it over. The North surrendered to the British control fairly quickly, but the South continued to resist as before. And this caused the British to focus on keeping peace and order in the south instead of improving it like they did in the north of Sudan. And this was the start of the division between the two regions. In 1956, Sudan became an independent country. Conflicts started to arise when the northern leaders would not let the South have a say in the government. And then later in 1972, a civil war broke out between the North and the South. It didn't last long, but another war erupted again in 1983 and didn't end until 2005. And then 6 years later, in 2011, South Sudan declared their independence, becoming the world's newest country. South Sudan's government is a presidential republic, meaning that the president is both the head of state and the head of government. The citizens have had issues with the government and their rights lately. The president, vice president, and other government officials have all been in office for 14 years, and no elections have taken place. The elections keep getting postponed due to conflict and the recent civil war that ended 5 years ago. And currently, the elections will not happen until 2026. There have also been ongoing political and ethnic conflicts between the president and vice president and their ethnic groups, which puts the country at risk for another civil war. Their economy relies heavily on their oil industry, which makes up 90% of their GDP. Recently, a major oil pipeline was ruptured, and that has had a devastating effect on the country's economy. South Sudan is already a poor country and experiences high poverty rates, with 82.3% of the population living below the poverty line. The country has a lot of potential for agriculture, but it lacks the resources and technology. Agriculture is already one of their main economic industries, but they struggle with maintaining large farms without the proper supplies, so they cannot fully benefit from this. Now, moving on to women's issues. Gender-based violence has been a major issue in the country. The sexual assault of women is commonly used by groups of men to punish other men, using women as a weapon. For example, they will abduct the wife of another man and assault her to get back at him. And survivors of sexual assault are often abandoned by their families and left to die. And even though this is a big issue, the government does very little to stop this problem. Sex trafficking is also a major issue. South Sudan is both a source and a destination for trafficking. The only laws that criminalize it only cover the trafficking of children, so sex trafficking of adults is technically still legal. The government has not investigated or prosecuted any traffickers in over 11 years, despite its laws and task force that aim to prevent this issue. There is very little access to healthcare in South Sudan, especially maternal health. The maternal mortality rate is 1,223 per 100,000 live births, ranking it the highest in the world. Despite healthcare being a necessity for a majority of the population, the government only spends 2% of its budget on it. There is a limited number of hospitals and healthcare facilities in South Sudan, leaving a lot of people without healthcare, especially expecting mothers. South Sudan's education system is currently struggling. 70% of children don't go to school, and majority of this percentage are girls. Gender violence, poor sanitation, and long distances can make it difficult and dangerous for girls to go to school. And many schools have closed due to the recent conflicts and war, but the government has still not helped to reopen them, leaving many children without an education. There are organizations that are working to help some of these issues. The United Nations Sexual and Reproductive Rights Agency is working to expand access to maternal health care, contraceptives, and education on reproductive health in South Sudan. They are creating programs to train more healthcare workers, which South Sudan is lacking. They are hoping to decrease the number of deaths due to childbirths and increase safe pregnancies and births. The United Nations Children's Fund is building and renovating schools to provide a safe environment for children to learn in, especially girls. With the recent conflicts and war, this would help protect the kids from violence and exploitation while giving them a proper education. And here are my sources. And that's all. Thank you.